mind, any questions you want to ask, don't miss the opportunity to ask two players that are playing currently in Luton Town's first team any questions that might help your development and help your journey to hopefully one day be in exactly the same position they are and pulling on the Luton Town shirt for the first team, hopefully in the Championship, or you never know, higher as well. All right, so without further ado, Pelly, Pete, thanks ever so much for joining us. It's much appreciated. And I know the boys appreciate you giving up your time as well. I think we'll get straight into it, and we're going to start with you, Pelly. Obviously, there's a lot of boys on here that are hoping to follow in the footsteps of yourself and Pete, and just give us a little bit of a bit more of your background and obviously, you know, where you started at Boreham Wood and how the opportunity going into West Ham came about.
Well, went to Boreham Wood from Sunday League at about under 15, 16s, and just continued playing there. And then my second or third year as a 17-year-old went into first team, starting play well, started training well, and there was a coach called Darryl McMahon. He was not a West Ham scout, but he had links to West Ham. And then went there for a trial. And after that, signed a professional contract with West Ham. Obviously, as a kid, everyone wants to sign a professional contract. So made it there. And then obviously playing under 18s, reserves. And then from then on, I was coming up to the end of my contract at West Ham. And then in the December, Luton wanted to take me on loan. And I was like, didn't know. But obviously, when it comes to it, you got to get some game time and play professional men's football. Or men's football, shall I say. And I went there on loan for a month, and the next year, or the next month after January, signed, and here I am, still here, still batting away. And yeah, obviously I've got through a couple of promotions, and now we're in the Championship, and hopefully we can go further on.
Perfect. And just going back to your time at Boreham Wood and obviously the transition from playing the Boreham Wood level of football to then going into West Ham, was it a big step up in quality and ability of the players that you were playing with? And if so, how did you cope with that?
Well, obviously Boreham Wood was in the conference, so the quality was men's football. But going into academy football, it's a lot more, let's say, fast paced. A lot more quality players. So yeah, the transition was a bit difficult, but obviously you got to keep your head straight, try and adjust as quickly as possible, because the quicker you adjust, the more you can match the physical and demanding stuff of academy football. So yeah, in that aspect, it was not difficult, but I was managed to get my feet on the ground quickly.
And do you think actually having that experience of playing men's football at Boreham Wood, then going back into the fast pace of academy football, actually helped your transition into that low move into Luton and allowed you almost to hit the ground sprinting, shall we say?
Yeah, 100%, because obviously men's football is a lot more physical. People are playing week in, week out for basically their livelihood. Obviously, academy football is a bit of a, let's say, bubble. Well, no pun included, but yeah, the bubble. And like you feel comfortable in your own little world, and it's nicey football here, nicey football there. So going back out to play for Luton, so I say, was a lot more easier than I thought it'd be.
And just linking that, obviously, you then went on loan to Luton and then signed permanently. Was it an easy decision to give up on or leave behind West Ham and then go and further your career at Luton, which obviously were in leagues below?
I'll be honest, I didn't want to go. Like I thought, I'm going to a lower league. We might not get out of the league in the first place. So it was difficult, but end of the day, you got to make decisions. You got to stick by it. So I was thankful that I have, and we got promoted straight away out of the National League. And yeah, straight into League Two.
And just looking at how you made that transition and going into Luton's team, signing permanently, is it right you made your debut at centre back? Was that when you was at loan or when you signed permanently?
That was when I was on loan. My first game was Staines in the FA Trophy. I don't know, you boys, little boys know that, but yeah, one of them. And then after, they knew that I wanted to be a midfielder, so I just stayed in midfield until then.
Okay, and just looking at you mentioned yourself that obviously you've come into Luton. Promotion pretty much straight away. Was it then you realised that actually, despite the reservations you might have had, it was the right decision? And when you look at the amount of promotions that you've had in your time at Luton, do you still agree it was the right decision to make?
Yeah, 100%, because I was up at the end of the season with West Ham, and no one wants to be clubless and a free agent when you haven't really played any games. So Luton wanted me, and it's worked out well. I've gone through 3 promotions, and it's been a great decision for me.
And just thinking on your time at Luton so far, obviously you've been through several managers. several promotions, playing against lots of different teams and lots of different leagues. How have you managed to handle that transition of trying to perform to the highest level and to highest your ability, whether it be Conference, League Two, League One, and now in the Championship? Has that been an easy transition, or have you had to work really hard on the training ground to be able to compete at each level?
No, I've had to work really hard. Like, coming in, every step gets a lot more difficult. League Two, League One, Championship, and you got to keep working hard on the training ground. And obviously, a lot comes along the way. Obviously, you got to try to keep fit. Obviously, when beginning the career of Luton, I didn't really keep fit. Had a lot of injuries, and then obviously the gaffer now came in and he got me fighting fit. So it's right now it's been a good transition, and then the Championship obviously is another difficult level. We proved last year that we can stick and play with the best. So obviously we've got to keep improving, and hopefully this season we can try to do something special. We never know where we can finish, but we've got to try hard, keep 100%, and we never know where we'll finish.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think just looking at your position and the way the position you play in midfield, what would you say from looking at a League One player, or the Pelly-Ruddock that was playing in League One, to now the Pelly that's playing in the Championship? What would you say would be the key areas that you felt you needed to improve on to be able to perform at Championship level, but consistently and competing with, some of the players that are highly experienced at Championship level?
I think the main thing for me is you have to know how to keep the ball, and when the killer pass or the killer goal, you need to be clinical, because like you give a Championship player 1 or 2 chances and he's going to take 50% of them. Obviously in League One, League Two, the quality ain't as good, so you can afford to give chances, but obviously not too many. But obviously the quality of the players in Championship, that's why they get paid the big bucks, big money, and that's what I think it is.
Okay, and just linking that on the pitch to now off the pitch, obviously, as I said a few moments ago, you've worked with a lot of managers. You would have seen a lot of players come and go, and obviously the club, has really gone from strength to strength on the pitch as well as off the pitch. But what would you say has been some of the key things that you've seen change, predominantly off the pitch as well, whilst obviously the club has been developing on the pitch?
First of all, off the pitch, the training ground. Like, if you boys train at the training ground at Ely Way, it's just like a mud bath. Like, it's mad. It's a training ground, to be honest. Like, a lot of teams in the lower leagues don't have somewhere to train. They train at school pitches and university, so I can't take it for granted. But obviously the quality wasn't, or the pitch quality wasn't there. Obviously we moved to the British now, and like it's just gotten better and better and better. Obviously the food and all the catering stuff, and just the stuff in general. Like, obviously you move up the leagues and the staff have to get better, the nutritionist, all the people that you to bring in. So off the pitch, it's been great. Obviously, hopefully the new stadium comes into tact when you lot grow. So that's also a good project. So hopefully that gets turned over and then just goes through.
Let's hope so. I think we'll all be in agreement with that. And I just want to touch on, everyone will be well aware of what a strange year it's been, and obviously a strange season last season, or ending of last season. So I just want to touch on quickly lockdown and how you managed to cope with that. A lot of boys on the screen would have had to put up with myself, Dale, and the academy manager, Andy Orford, doing quizzes and Zoom calls every week with them. And they probably got a little bit bored of seeing us, but we knew it was something we needed to do to interact with the players still, interact with the parents still. And we were well versed on what they were doing away from, the training ground as well, because they couldn't come in, whether it be short videos about the tricks and skills and the one-to-ones they're doing in their garden or in their lounge, etc. But what was you doing during that lockdown period, to keep your mind active, but also keep yourself as fit as you possibly could, ready for when football does start back?
Well, my body physically, I've got a bike, so I live close to London, so I would just ride around to Hyde Park and back, just keeping. Obviously, it's a good fitness, but you can explore London at the same time. So it was good to get around. Mentally, I just thought, yeah, I'll read a couple of books. So I read a book on Akala, and he talked about what's it about? It was like how he was discriminated when he was younger, and just how his life process and how race plays into play in his book. So yeah, that's how I read a couple of books, and that's how I kept my mind straight.
Perfect. And just probably, Pete, I can bring you in on this one as well, if that's okay. Just from your point of view, just on that, and we'll go into a little bit more detail about yourself and your journey in a moment as well. But, linking to what Pelly's just said there about what he did during lockdown, just give the boys a little bit of a flavour of what you did yourself to keep yourself fit and mentally, physically active during the lockdown period.
Oh yeah, I'll say obviously for me it was more of a thing of I had a private place that I could have used to, like, obviously do a bit of ball work and do a bit of runs. And because there's only me and my brother that live together, and he does quite a lot of fitness things. Me and him were doing the fitness things together, and it was just good. That, in terms of football, that was like the best thing I could have, is the fact that my brother's a fitness coach, basically, and me and him just working together every day. But obviously off the pitch, it was more, for me, it was just more about like learning more about myself as like my family's country, learning more about me as a person, watching documentaries on Africa, on Congo and things like that, and understanding who I really am as a human being, and also as a black man.
Interesting. And you just see there, boys, isn't it interesting that you've got two first-team players there that use the lockdown period to almost re-educate themselves, relearn something different, whether it be about their culture, their upbringing, etc. I think that's a vital note for you guys to take away as well, that you're never too old to take on something new and learn something different about yourself. And while we've got you, Pete, obviously you moved to Luton, but you moved to Luton from Hartlepool. So just give us a little bit of background as to, how you ended up so far up north, the journey to Hartlepool, how that came about, and then see Pelly shaking his head there.
That's that. Hartlepool was far.
It's far, yeah.
Pelly, for those boys that don't know, that is probably, you're not getting much further north from a footballing point of view. So, Pete, just give us a little bit of detail of how that move came about and link that to how you ended up back down here at Luton.
I'll start from the very beginning then. Before I even got to Hartlepool, it was more of a thing of, I moved over to England because originally I was born in Ireland, moved over to England, and then went on trial. MK Dons, didn't get in, and then ended up going to play for, just a little secret that will stay between us because I don't think the fans know this, but I went to play for Watford for 2 years.
I know.
Yeah. went to play for Watford for 2 years, done 2 years in Watford, and I knew that I wasn't going to get a scholar there. Ended up going back to MK Dons and got a scholar at MK Dons, done my 2 years, didn't get a pro. And then obviously, look, for you boys here, there's sometimes, as Pell said it himself, he had to sit down with himself and actually had to admit to himself that maybe dropping a few leagues was the best decision to make for his career. It's not the nicest, it doesn't feel the nicest, doesn't look the nicest, but it's the most effective. So I had to take a decision. Would I keep going around and looking for clubs? Obviously, when I tried QPR, Bournemouth, clubs like that, and certain things didn't work out for me to sign, I was like, should I keep going on trial to them type of clubs, or should I just get experience in men's football? And I decided to get experience in men's football. Ended up going to Dunstable Town without being paid for a whole year of football. So that was quite hard to take, from being paid to play football to playing it for free. Felt like Sunday league for me, but it was still a very good thing for me. It built me as a man, built me as a player, built my character. And then the manager that I had at Dunstable, he was a head scout at Bradford. So I ended up going on trial at Bradford, and the day that I came in, the manager that knew me and wanted to sign me ended up getting sacked right in front of me whilst I was eating breakfast. So it's like literally gone up on Sky Sports News, and I'm looking at it, and he's in the office, and I've just said hello to him, and he's came in because someone said, like, you need to come and look at this, and he's seen that he's been sacked, like right there on the TV. So obviously I ended up not getting signed at Bradford because he was the one that wanted to sign me, so the new manager came in, things like that. But then later on down the line, the Bradford City manager that I was coaching me at the time, he recommended me to a manager at Hartlepool. And the manager at Hartlepool said, you know what, yeah, we'll give you a look. I was supposed to do a week trial. I ended up getting signed after like 3 days. So that was quite good. And I ended up doing a year and a half in Hartlepool, which was hard because as you and Pearl were making jokes about, it is quite far from home. And at the time, I think I was 18. So as an 18-year-old, I was basically living on my own, depending on my own. So like that was quite hard, like cooking and things like that, and moving up there. But it was still good, as I said, built me as a man, built my character as well. And then ended up doing a year and a half there, and I heard that Luton were interested. And look, I've always known about Luton. I've always been that bit interested about Luton. So I was like, yeah, why not? So I've done it.
Perfect. And it's really great to hear you speak about actually, you've mentioned about the move to Hartlepool, and you didn't actually mention a great deal about your football and how you played, but you did mention about the fact that, the off the pitch stuff, the fact that it grew you as a man, etc., etc. And with that growth as a man, as a person off the pitch, do you think that helped your transition to coming into Luton?
100%. I think I've always said in terms of me and my career, when I speak about football, I think the two biggest clubs for me that helped me like my whole career, and the things that if like God willing I make it to the Premier League and I'm doing the best that I can as a player and my career is going as good as possible, the two things I always look back on is Dunstable and Hartlepool, because as I said from the beginning, that they're not the best. If you're looking at it from an outsider, I know some of the boys here, you're probably thinking like, what league are Luton in? Because they probably don't, not Luton, sorry, Hartlepool, because they don't even know what league Hartlepool's in. That's like conference, national. But look, it's not the best football. It's not the best place. Dunstable's even worse. Dunstable's 3 leagues below conference. So it's not the best, but in the exact same time, like you learn so many things about yourself in them periods. You learn how much you can push yourself, and you learn how much more you've got in you.
Yeah, and you're talking about learning how much more you've got in you, and you almost learn a lot about yourself on the pitch as well. And similar to what I mentioned about Pelly, from going from Boreham Wood to West Ham back to Luton in the conference, what were some of the key differences that you found coming into Luton, a championship team, obviously under Graham Jones at the time? What were some of the key differences you found about championship football or training with championship players that you might not have had at Hartlepool?
I think you need to be on it, like every time. You need to be on it, like all the time. Let it be training, let it be matches, because as we're all players here in this chat. We've all been players, so it's a thing of, as a footballer, that if you give a great player or good player a sniff, like you're in big trouble. So obviously, like coming from National League straight to championship team, and even in training, like just seeing like one bad ball, one bad touch, you're one step behind, and that gives the person you're playing against the up on you, and that it's very dangerous when you're playing against the players that I train against every day, Pell trains against every day, or the players that we play against every day. And like you can't, there's no risk for mistakes. Obviously you're gonna make mistakes, because that's bound to happen. So it's not a thing of you should always look at it like, nah, I shouldn't make a mistake. But I think the higher up you go, you get punished more for the mistakes you make.
Yeah, and I think that's probably one of the key things that the boys can learn from, is that actually the importance of understanding that within the game you will make mistakes, but it's how do you work hard to limit the mistakes you make at key areas of the game. And certainly speaking to Pelly and to Pete, those boys will know, and they'll back me, that certainly playing at championship level, as soon as you make one mistake, you're playing against opposition that are that good. They could play one pass and they're in on goal, bang, it's a goal, you lose the game 1-0. So even at your level, boys, whichever age group you are, it's really important that understand mistakes will happen, and understand you will make mistakes, but certainly have the confidence to go and get the ball again, try again, and can you be that person this time round that is playing that killer pass? Pete, I just want to touch on your debut. I was fortunate enough to be around you at the time when the debut happened, and I know, from speaking to you, something that you were patiently waiting for, to get that opportunity, working hard behind the scenes so you are in the best possible shape and possible position to grab that debut with the best possible hands when it arises. So just give the boys a little bit of a flavour of how that day went and how the debut came about.
I think like even before that, like some people, like whenever I speak to my mum and dad, I think they always classify the whole debut as my debut. I don't classify that as a debut. I never really classified that as a debut for me, even though I did come on. Like for me, I didn't touch the ball. I think I touched the ball once actually. I think it was a free kick, and I tried to waste a bit of time. And I was like, let me just touch the ball, and like, but yeah, like that wasn't a full debut for me. But obviously, for the Man U game, it was. I don't know. We weren't training on the Sunday. No, I don't think we were in on the Sunday. But obviously, we're in on the Monday, and obviously, me and you, Forbes, like, yourself, and we always speaking and training. Like, if it's not about football, it's just about anything in general. So we was having a conversation, just speaking about how training was going. I remember you asked me, you're like, are you ready for tomorrow? Like, are you fully prepared? And even when you said that, for me, I felt like I'm quite good at noticing when someone's hinting something. So like you said it, and I was like, you might be hinting something, but I was like, let me just finish the training session and things like that. But obviously, yeah, we done the 5-0s. After we done the 5-0s, 5-side games, we went into the shape work. And when we've gone into the shape work, the gaffer said the team and I heard my name, obviously there's loads of thoughts going through your head. Like, of course, the first thought you're always going to have is, look, you're playing against Man U. Like, that's the first thought you're going to have, like, as a player. Not as a player, I'll say as a fan, but then as a player, my first thought is that's my full debut. Like, I need to impress not just everybody else. I need to impress myself. I think that's the most important thing I've learned about me as a footballer. I think Pearl could second this as well. I think for me, I've always seen it as I didn't go into that game thinking, well, I'm playing against Man U and thinking I was more thinking about myself, my performance, than I was thinking about the opposition. I wasn't really bothered about who I was going to play against, because at the end of the day, whoever I played against was going to give me a hard time. It wasn't going to be easy because it's Man U. So like, it wasn't a thing of I'm thinking, oh, who's going to play on my wing and who's going to do this. Like, even if Rashford played, Greenwood played, or Lingard, I was still going to have a tough day. Mata played, I was still going to have a tough day. So I think with me, I just took it as I always go into every game thinking I don't want to disappoint myself because I know what I can do as a player. So that's what makes me nervous. I don't get nervous about who I'm playing against or where we're playing or that. Honestly, the crowd, the fans, it means nothing to me. The most important thing for me is how I perform, because I know if I have a bad game, the person I've let down the most is myself. I've let myself down the most. And that's the thing that affects me as a player, knowing that I've let myself down. I haven't like stood up to my ability to play. So I think obviously going into the game, that was my mindset of, look, like, you know what you can do. And it's just about you proving to yourself, most importantly, that I'm capable to do this and I can do this. Obviously going into the game, I just tried my hardest and I done what I could do at the end of the day. And yeah, luckily I did have a good game. Obviously it wasn't, I think it would have been a lot better if we would have won. But at the end of the day, like, it was good to get a full debut against Man U and to have a good game. But I think for me, I always see as that's just the beginning. I still have a lot more work to do.
Yeah, totally. Again, you know, it's one of those situations where I think, just to link it back to the boys on the screen as well, those that have worked closely with me, and there'll be people on the screen that I know that they laugh at me when I say that there's two words, and the two words I give a lot of the players is confidence and belief. If you haven't got confidence and belief in yourself and your own ability, boys, you will only go so far. But never, ever, ever lose that confidence. Never lose that belief in yourself, your ability, and why you are an academy player now, and why you can hopefully potentially follow in the same footsteps as Pete and Pelly as well. They undoubtedly have that confidence and that belief in themselves, and that's why they've been able to go to other clubs in lower leagues, but fight back and be able to play in the Championship now. So just on that, both of you, Ian, I'll come back to you, Pel. Just give the boys a little bit of a flavour of how football was coming back in after lockdown. Obviously, you've got a situation where some of the country is still in lockdown, can't go anywhere, but all of a sudden, you lot are going back to training. You've got to work out around, you know, getting tested, training, small group training, which the boys have had to experience over the last month or so. So just give us a little bit of an explanation of how that was for you, and let the boys know what you had to go through once you did come into the ground prior to starting the remaining 9 games.
To be honest, it was actually weird. Like, people will be, well, you be coming in at, like, let's say 11, and people are already going home. Like, it's just weird. Like, you train with 5 people, you know, you're just spaced out, you're not contacting. It was actually weird. And obviously you got there's one-way system. You'll get tested every Monday, Thursday, wherever it was. You can't sit next to each other. The weights are sprayed. Everything was just obviously strict, and you had to abide by the rules. Was it enjoyable? It was good to see the boys again. You know what I mean? Because obviously I missed football. Football was part of, well, basically football was my life. So it was good to come back. But obviously very, very weird. And once the game started going or coming in, it seemed not back to normal, but there was some routine back in all of our lives. And we went on a great one and lost like maybe 1 or 2 games, and then we managed to stay up. So coming back to football during lockdown was a great thing for everyone. Obviously the fans aren't back yet, and hopefully that can happen soon, because the fans, Luton fans, play a great part in this club. So hopefully they'll be back in the stadium very soon.
Yeah, and Pete, obviously strange for you in that you've come into the club, you're waiting to get your opportunity. lockdown happens and it's like, what's happening next? And then same with Pelly is, you're then back in and it's small group training and, it's almost the manager that you came in to work for is no longer there. It's a completely different start. You got to deal with taking sessions with me. Bad luck. How was that for you as well? How did you deal with that transition and dealing with the uncertainty of the whole COVID situation?
I think it was just frustrating for me, as it was for anyone, to be fair. But for me personally, I just seen it as, I found it very, very frustrating just because of the fact of, just before the lockdown happened, I think we were playing, there was Wigan and then there was one more team. I remember Graham Jones coming to me and telling me that he was thinking about putting me in the game against Middlesbrough or something like that. For some reason, he ended up not putting me in there. But then I think after that, there was like a midweek game that we were supposed to play or something like that on a Friday that we were going to travel up somewhere. And I remember him pulling me aside and saying look, I'm thinking about playing you. But then obviously COVID happened and it pushed everything back. But at the exact same time as Pearl said, I think it was quite weird, obviously coming in and Pearl, unluckily, Pearl was in my groove. So that wasn't too bad, just because with me and him, the banter is always usually flowing, as with anyone. But this guy's known for his jokes. But yeah, it was just a bit weird to only be with just a few people, for the whole day. And to be fair, it didn't feel right for me. It didn't feel right because, as Forbes knows and as Pearl knows, Pearl knows a lot better than me. It's a family here, so obviously not having everybody there at one time, it wasn't too good, but it was things we had to do, and we've got past that side of things now.
I've got to say, just on that, what you boys won't know is that actually how the first team structured it would be 3 groups each day. So I think it was something like a 10 o'clock group, a 12 o'clock group, and then a 2 o'clock group. And as one group was entering, the other group was leaving, etc., etc. And I've got to say, with these 2 boys, with me doing that 2 o'clock group, I knew it was going to be the hardest session of the day because you were tired as a coach. But every single session we did, the laughs, the giggles, the banter was absolutely spot on. But the work rate and the attitude by the boys was first class as well. And I think that had an impact on how the team as a whole actually performed. I think I'm going to put you on the spot now, Pel. Obviously, we get that first game back after lockdown. The team there's no sugarcoating it. The team is struggling, bottom of the table. Did you think we'd do it? Did you think we'd actually manage to stay in the league?
Obviously,
answer this properly. Answer this properly. End up in the Daily Mail.
There's always thoughts that, oh, damn it, look where we are. But we was on a good run before we broke up in it. And then obviously we came back it's looking tough, but in the back of your head, you're thinking, yeah, we can do it. And once we got rolling, we got these games going. Eventually, we thought, yes, we were going to make it out of it, and gladly we did. So there's always doubts, but I think the positivity that I had overcame the doubts, and in the end, I thought, yes, we can do it before we came.
Yeah, and I think it's everyone knows obviously what the team as a collective went on to achieve, and I think looking at that Blackburn game last day, both of you going into that game knowing what was at stake, knowing the amount of work that as a team, players, coaching staff, people behind the scenes, everyone had put in. How were the nerves, both of you, before that game? How were the nerves going into that Blackburn game?
I was nervous even watching it.
For me, I had. Do you know when sometimes a team can help you out? There was other teams playing each other, and thought, oh, do you know what? We might not win, but someone will help us out. But once the game started going, and we started well, and then the goals came in. Obviously, there was a couple of own goals, fortunately. So in the end, well, at the beginning, I thought, yeah, we can do this, and then it was a 3-2 win, and we would enjoyed ourselves on the pitch after, and it was a great feeling for the boys.
Yeah. And Pete, you were saying you were nervous watching it. Just what was it like sat there watching it when you can't impact on the game?
I remember saying, I think I said it to you, obviously, but obviously me and Kaz were on the bench that game, and I was debating to bring my phone. Boys, if you don't ever do this, this ain't something I'm advising. So don't think I'm advising it. But we were debating to bring our phones on the bench to check the other scores. But luckily, we had like a couple of the boys that were injured in the stands. So we would always ask, like, okay, what's the score? Like, let us know every time someone scores. And whilst they were playing, some of the scores wasn't going our way. I remember, I remember Wigan at one point. I think Wigan were winning at one point. Barnsley were drawing for such a long time, and I said to Kaz, they're gonna end up winning 1-0. So I was like, we need to get a win here. And I remember even I think at half time, Pell walking past me, and Pell was like, as he's walking off the pitch to go inside, he was like, yeah, like, what's the scores? And I told him quickly, like, yeah, this was going on. And he's like, cool. But like, it's just things like that. Obviously, as a footballer, like Pell knows, obviously Pell playing the game as well. Like it's a great experience to go through something like that and to come out the way we did, because it's things you don't forget. You don't forget them kind of things there, because I like just being able to do something that nobody thought we would have been able to do. That's the best thing you can do.
100%.
Yeah, so
everyone wrote us off. Everyone wrote us off.
Yeah, and I got to be honest with you, everyone on here, keep it a secret. But I had my phone on the bench next to me, and I was checking the scores.
Have to.
Checking the scores for the fight. Every time I look round, thinking I had something special because I'd seen a goal go in, and I look round at you guys behind me. You already knew as well, so now I know you were from the lads behind you. But it was one of those really, really special, memorable moments that I know the boys, the club, the team will cherish. And, you know, I think it's a group of first team players that will go on to achieve a lot more in their careers. But certainly that game against Blackburn and the achievement of staying in the league is something I think will stay with that group of players and the club as a whole for a very, very, very long time. And actually just forms part of the next chapter of Luton Town. So I think just going to touch on now, obviously Black History Month. I think it's well documented, lots of things that are going on in the world, shall we say now. And I think one of the things I want to touch on with you, Pete, is it was well documented a few months ago that unfortunately you suffered a little bit of racist abuse online from, I think it was a Hartlepool fan. So,
yeah.
You know, let the boys know a little bit of what happened. And I think what's key for me is just letting the boys know how you handled that situation when it did arise.
I think obviously, like, I don't think the boys, like, you wouldn't know anything about it, but like I done quite well when I went to Hartlepool, like, as a player. I was only there for a year and a half, but in the space of me being there for a year and a half, I was able to make the team of the decade for the 2000s, and obviously I felt like that was a good achievement for me. But like that, like the fans, the majority, I'm not gonna say all, but the majority of the fans like showed me loads of love and things like that. So I honestly felt like, when I did see what had happened, it wasn't a stab in the back. I wouldn't call it a stab in the back, but it was just a thing of like, I wouldn't expect it from a Hartlepool fan. That was it. But I think it was after the game, and I don't think any of you boys do have me on Instagram or have Pell on Instagram. I don't think so. If you do, then you would have seen we were enjoying after the game. We were like celebrating as we should. I think we deserved to celebrate the way we did, and we were celebrating, dancing around and things like that. And during the dancing around, someone had made a racial comment towards me, saying I looked like a certain type of animal. So then obviously I didn't notice it at the time. A friend of mine had sent me a DM and said that basically look what's going on. And I didn't, to be fair with me, I didn't pay no mind to it. I didn't really care about it. It didn't affect me in any way. It didn't make me upset, angry, anything like that. I didn't pay mind to it. But I didn't pay mind to it not because I didn't want to say anything. I didn't pay mind to it because like I'm used to that. I've been used to it. But unfortunately, I've been used to it the majority of my life and my career. So it wasn't something of, I'm not going to let this kid or affect me. But obviously, days coming on, Paul gave me a call. Honestly, I'm not going to lie to you, I completely forgot about it. It wasn't even on my mind. Paul ended up giving me a call and said to me, look, like, what do you want to do about it? Do you want to write a statement, bro? Like, things like that. I said, look, me personally, I don't want to do anything. If the club want to do something, they can do it, but I don't want to do anything. But I said to him, if there's a statement being written, let it be known that it's not a thing of me. I don't want it to come out of it's affected me. I want it to come out as it affects everyone that's younger than me. You get what I mean? Like, obviously it affects every black person, but it affects the younger generation a lot more. So obviously you young kids here that are gonna come up to be my age, come up to be Pelly's age. Unfortunately, if the way things are going, you will probably go through any race. You're gonna go through certain racial slurs that are hit towards you, and it's about being able to deal with it. Now, for me, I just wanted it to be out there for the younger generation to let them know what you're going into, especially like not just in the world but in football, like what you're going into as young kids. You need to understand any race, whatever race you are, that there will be ignorant people that will try and pull you and try and sway you aside by saying certain comments. And you just need to understand that they don't deserve the time of day. Like they don't deserve no time, because they're silly, to be fair. I would use another word, but it's not appropriate right now. But yeah, they're quite silly. So like for me, I just wanted it to be out there. I said to Paul, make it be known that it's not for me. It's for like every black person, and most importantly, the younger generation coming up. Just for you to understand, look, it happens. Don't think because it hasn't happened to you, it doesn't happen. It happens. Any race, it happens to you. From white people to Asian to black to whatever ethnicity, whatever you are, it happens to everyone. So it's just about understanding that it is out there and not being blind to it. And obviously, Paul ended up putting the statement out. Whatever happened to the kid happened to the kid. Like at the end of the day, unfortunately, in terms of racism, it's not seen. It's sad to say this, but it's not seen as a crime. It's seen as a slap on the wrist, and that's what racism is nowadays. A slap on the wrist. If you do it, it's a slap on the wrist. That's it. But that will never change, unfortunately. But at the exact time, I didn't care what happened to the kid. At the end of the day, even if they didn't speak to him, I didn't care. But for me, it was just about everybody else understanding what's going on right in front of you.
That's a real powerful message to give to the players here. Not only the powerful message about you looking at as a person of strength and a person in power with your standing in the game, but also the fact that you were prepared to, understand that it happens, but also make sure that statement was made and make sure that it was written in the right way where it can impact on the younger generation. So massive respect for you for handling that situation that way. And just onto you, Pelly, throughout your time, whether it be, Bournemouth, West Ham, Luton, any games you played, have you come across anything that you have felt or that you would feel obviously had a racist connotation to it when you were playing, whether it be from a fan in the stand as an example?
Do you know what? Personally, I might not have had it, but no, I haven't, none at all. I've never reacted to someone saying something. I don't recall someone calling me anything as of late or where I've played. It's not really touched me. Obviously, I'm not ignorant to see that it doesn't go on. But personally, nothing has affected me. I haven't had to walk off with a teammate. None of my teammates have either said, "Oh, listen, he's done some of this, he's done that." So personally, no, nothing's been directed towards me.
Brilliant, and that's good to hear. And fingers crossed.
And yeah, that's lucky, because anyone can. I could be walking down the touchline and someone could say this, that, and it's just it can happen in a split second. Out of how many years I've played, I don't know, 10 or 8. That can happen in 5 seconds. So it's crazy right now.
I think the key thing with that, Pelly's the lucky one there that's not had at this moment in time managed to face any form of racial abuse when he's playing. And I think it's important, as Pete said, to know that just because you don't hear it or you haven't seen it live or heard it directly, that don't be ignorant enough to think that it doesn't go on. But what I will say, to anyone on here that does face that, regardless of what age you are, what age group you are, you will all know that from a safeguarding point of view, you'll know the relevant people to come and speak to about it. Don't feel you can't come and have that conversation with Dale, myself, your age group coach, and make sure you bring it to our attention. And I promise you, as a club and as a collective, it's certainly something that we will deal with in the appropriate manner. And I can promise you that it's not something that the club will take lightly, for sure. So anything that happens, regardless of who you are and what age you are, make sure you bring it to our attention at the appropriate time. All right. So I think off the back of that, I think we've done nearly 45 minutes now. So I think what I want to ask you both, and we'll go with you, Pete, first. You are now playing in and around the squad in the Championship. You look at your journey going back. What would you say now to a young Peter starting his journey out again that you might do differently, or might be able to give these young potential first team players some real good advice to continue with throughout their journey?
I'll say something like, it's funny enough. I had a conversation with my dad earlier, and he said this line, and I think I'll stick with that. I think it's just about appreciating what you have. I think that's the most important thing. I think us as footballers, you're always thinking, yeah, I'm here, but I want to be there, and like I want. It's always good to have that mindset, but I think that's the time you need to understand. Some people pray to be in the situations that you're in. Some people, like, they're hoping every day that they can be you. So when you have people hoping they can be you, sometimes when you're reflecting on yourself, understand what you're actually doing and appreciate how well you're doing, but don't just stand there in awe and forget about the work you need to do. But at the same time, just appreciate what you're doing and how far you've come and where you're going to and what the journey. It's going to be a long journey, so you just need to appreciate every moment.
Okay, good man. And Pelly, for
I
you?
would repeat you. You're not wrong. You always gotta wish health on yourself, because football can end in one moment. Like, you might, unfortunately, don't touch wood, you might break your leg, and then tomorrow, and then you might not be able to walk. You might need a walking stick, and obviously, no one wants that. You got to keep believing, and you got to keep trying to achieve the highest. I think for me, you got to keep your mindset right. You can't be, let's say, people have their bad days. You can't be slacking off every day. And if you keep your mindset right, I think your mind can take you anywhere you can be. Your mind is a powerful thing. Like, we only lose like 20% of our brain, so you got to maximize that. And always think, listen, I can do this, but this can be better, or I can do this, but I can work on this. And you always got to work on yourself, not just on the pitch, off the pitch. Work on yourself and work on sometimes being a good human. Like, some people are just are negative in this world, so we're trying to bring yourself to be a better person, and people remember you just not for your football, but for being someone that say, oh yeah, that guy was actually do good at this, that, and not just at football.
Brilliant. Two fantastic answers there. So I'm going to be really busy now, and I've gone, what would you say for your younger self? I'm now going to go for your older self. If you had a good old-fashioned remote control and you could press the fast forward button and you could both fast forward 5 years, Pete, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Where would you like to see yourself 5 years from now, if you continue to show the right work ethic, attitude?
Yeah, of course, yeah. As long as, like, God willing, that everything goes to plan. As you said, as I work hard, if I continue to work hard and do the things I need to do, God willing, playing in the Prem. That's every player's, footballer's dream, is to play in the Prem, and hopefully 5 years time to be an international player as well. That's the two most important things for me. Not to be a 23s or whatever, like to be a first team international, to be a regular first team international. You always have to have ambitions, and the best thing about having ambitions is every time you reach a goal, you make another one, and you just keep making it. So yeah, hopefully playing in the Prem and to be a regular international player.
Brilliant, great answer. And for yourself, Pelly?
Hopefully not retired. I'll be a big man by then. But
He's already old.
Oh no! Listen. Everyone wants to play in the Prem. Everyone wants to play in the Champions League. For me, obviously, the first step would be Prem, and then obviously in the Prem team to get the Champions League. Hopefully that can happen, because look at people like JJ. He's come from here. He's playing in the Premier League, and look at Leicester. Leicester finishing first, second, third, fourth regularly. So the Champions League can be the next stage. Obviously, Champions League, you're playing against the best teams in Europe. And that's testing yourself. That's you saying, if I go there and I test myself against these best players, I'm actually a good player. Like, and also you have the belief that you're a good player, but you might not make it to there. But if you make it to there, you're like, okay, I've done this, and my belief is there. So, yeah, so for me, that's the few steps that I'll hopefully will take.
Brilliant. And I think there's a lot of young players on there that can look at your journey so far, and actually where you feel you want to get to and where you're striving to get to. I think they all look at that and go, if they can do that as well, like yourselves, some fantastic careers could be had from these boys on the screen. So, chaps, I want to say a massive thank you for answering those questions there. I've put you on the spot with a couple, and sorry about that, but it was important to do that so the boys could get a real good understanding and flavour for yourselves, your personalities and your characters. And what I just want to say about these two lads that have come on here to speak to you tonight is their attitude and work rate that I have seen during training has been nothing short of exceptional. And I've had the fortunate position of working with them in close quarters. And it's not just what they do from what the manager or the coaching staff asks them to do. It's the extras. I can't tell you how many times Peter said to me, Forbesy, can we do a little bit of crossing? Can we do some stuff in the final third? And I'm going, well, actually, Pete, we can't really do it today because we've got a game tomorrow, but we'll make sure we tie it up by the end of the week. And then there was no way he was going to let me forget that he wanted those sessions done. So what I'd encourage you as players, when we can do it, when COVID allows, test, challenge, and push your coaches to give you more. Test, challenge, and push the coaches to give you what you need to allow you to make that next step. By doing that, not only are you going to be improving the players that you're working with and improving yourself, but you're also going to improve in the coaches that you're working with or are working with you, because that's our job, is to make you better and make you the best form of yourself that you can be. So Pelly, Pete, thank you ever so much. We've now got a couple of questions from the players that have been going into the chat box. So first of all, from George Wild for you, Pelly, can you explain the goal celebration against Wycombe?
The goal celebration.
Watching too much basketball.
It's got to do basketball. Obviously, Wycombe, they're a team that have a game plan. They came and they were just wasting time. Like, they'll kick the ball out, they'll be slow, they're taking free kicks slowly, they're placing the ball here. And eventually, when I scored, I was like, come waste time now. Like, that's the point out of the watch. Don't be wasting time around there and you're going to get punished. So that was it. Don't waste time. Just on that, Bell, just a little sideline to that. Was it annoying, frustrating, boring to a certain extent, watching a team come out and almost set up to waste time from the opening minute? You got to give the team the respect. That's how they play, and they might. It's frustrating, it's boring, it's annoying, but if it gets results, that's just their way of playing football. So you got to not respect. You can respect if you want to, but like, you got to handle it in a professional way. That's how they play. Not everyone's going to play out from the back or be Barcelona or be Man City. People are going to get results that way. They might have got a free kick, it bounced in the box, and they scored and they won 1-0. And then we've played wonderful football and lost. Sometimes, a lot of the time, football is about results. It's a results game now. Because if you don't have results and then you get relegated and your managers get fired, and so you got to take it professionally. And that's just how teams play. Brilliant. Next question for both of you. Who is the toughest player you have played against and why? And that's from Zach in the under-9. So you can answer that one first, Pete.
I don't want to name drop here because, if I'm name dropping, we might get in a bit of trouble. Some of the boys' mouth are going to be in awe. Wait, is that at Luton or just in general?
Just in general. So the toughest player you've played against and why for both of you?
I think in general, I would say, just because of how far he's gone. Do you know what? I'll say Bire because I was lucky to play against him, obviously, when I went on trial at QPR, and I was there for quite a long time. I was there for a couple of months. But honestly, like, I've never seen someone do what this guy does with the football. Honestly, like, live in the flesh and see it. I remember, like, just a quick example. We had a 21's training session, and he was training for like an hour and a half, something like that. And it was a hard session, very hard session. First team playing the game. The manager at the time, I think it was Ian Holloway. Ian Holloway calls over to the 21 manager. He's like, can we have Ezzy over here? And he's like, all right, yeah. There's only like 15 minutes. I think it's like 10 minutes left in the game. Ezzy goes over there. Obviously, we're finished training. I think he goes over there with 10 minutes left. They put him on with like 7 minutes left of the game. Forbesy, he's gone on. I think he scored a hat-trick and assisted 2 goals in the space of like 7 minutes. But it's like what he's doing to like the first team players is like, if you're looking from an outsider, you're thinking he's taking a mick out of them. Like he's trying to embarrass them. But that's just him as a player. So yeah, I'll have to go Eze. Like his technique, skill, his football IQ, joke.
So it didn't surprise you then when he got his big move? It didn't come as any surprise to you at all?
Oh, obviously, because of the fact I know him quite well. Like I knew something was going to happen. I knew something was brewing. But it didn't surprise me at all.
Perfect. And for you? Got him with a tough one there.
He's going to name drop. I know he's going to name drop. He's going to be like, oh, Messi.
Just name drop.
I know
it's Who should I say? You've got me. My brain's actually frazzled. You've got me on this one. I mean, I was thinking while Pete was talking, but damn.
Okay, let
You
me
might have to come back to me on that one.
Let me come back to
You
you.
might, yeah, you might have to come back on that
Let me
one.
come back to you on that one. Let me add a little bit to that then. Hardest player you have to train against within your squad. Who's the one that you're looking at in training going, I don't want to come up against him?
What, right now?
Right now. I think I know who one of you might say.
Do you know there's... Should I answer first, yeah?
Yeah.
I will say George Moncur. Like his feet move so rapidly. Like you never think. You just look at him and think, "Oh, this guy's got no feet." Like, but and his acceleration is like playing against him. People say someone else. I know he's gonna play, but for me, Monk's in midfield. No. He's just so sharp. He's sharp. He is sharp. We call him Happy Feet.
Happy Feet.
Get Happy Feet. Oh my day, yeah, George Moncur right now. Tough.
And Pete, for you,
Kaz.
Hey, of course.
But do you know why I say Kaz, Forbesy? I say it in a good way. I don't say it in a bad way because I say Kaz because I know when I'm not saying none of the other wingers don't give me a hard time because they do, but I know when I go against Kaz, it's gonna be a very good battle. So it's just a thing with him and me. We're always trying to get the better of each other, just like with me and Pel, we're trying to get the better of each other because we want to laugh at each other after training. So that's what it is. So obviously, with Kaz, whenever we're training against each other, I know this is gonna be a headache. So yeah, like it's just me and Kaz because our battles are always good.
Decent. I thought that was who you were going to say. So that actually links to the next question, really, in that for both of you again, you've both had different journeys that have led to you now playing championship football with Luton. But who are the toughest teams that you've played against throughout that journey? If you could pick one game or one team that you've faced and you've come off that game and you're exhausted, you've been in the 90-minute battle, who would you both pick?
Boy, I'm not gonna lie, Brentford, do you see that team? That team, like, just know when you go to Griffin Park, it's a tight stadium. It's a bit like ours, but tight stadium, and they just make you chase shadows for 90 minutes. And that's probably one of the toughest teams that I played against. That they gave us a good working, and they're always in and around. They always have good players, and I don't know about that. Hopefully the club's managed well, run well. But yeah, I thought Brentford has been the hardest team that I've probably played against.
Decent. And for yourself, Pete?
Obviously, in terms of the caliber of the team, I would usually go with Man U because look at the players that they have. But when I'm thinking about a game where I've come off and I'm like, wow, my head's hurting, I have a headache because I've been elbowed in the head and things like that. I think I'd have to go. I'd have to go with the National League team. I can't remember. There's so many different teams in that league where you go into the game and you know that it's just the ball's going to be in the air for the whole game. And as a defender, I'm only 6 foot. So in that league, as a defender in general, I'm not the tallest. And you're playing against guys that are 6'7", 6'8", and it's just horrible getting elbowed. I think I've had like 3 concussions last year alone, like the year and a half of Hartlepool, because of just getting elbowed all the time and things like that. So yeah, I'd say if we're talking about caliber and like the players and the name, we'll go with Man U. But if not, then I'd go with the National League team.
Okay, perfect. 2 good answers there. So question from Casey now, and knowing the position he plays, I'm going to ask you to answer this one, Pelly. Most important part of the game, i.e. movement on and off the ball, checking shoulders, etc. What would you, from a midfielder's point of view, what would you advise a fellow midfielder is the most important part of the game?
Like I mentioned before, I think it's keeping the ball in tight spaces. Like you can find space and you turn, you lose the ball, you found space, but you didn't really use the space effectively. So for me, it's make sure you're able to keep the ball under pressure with no pressure. And then after, you can work on checking your shoulders, and then you can be moving and then checking the foot off and then moving into the space from checking your shoulder. So for me, it's keeping the ball tidily and effectively.
Perfect. Okay, so another one for you, Pel, and this could be another tough one for you, to be honest with you. What's your most memorable game for Luton so far? With all those promotions and those games, that could be a tough one to single.
Obviously, there is always a couple of games last season, like the whole game. But for me, it was a game I scored in, actually. People will know the game because I scored in that goal in that game, and it was Dartford away. Like, we was losing, and then obviously we're trying to catch Cambridge, and Cambridge were just kept winning, and we tried to catch them, and obviously it was 1-0 down with like 10 minutes to go. I scored, and then Andre Gray scored, and we won the game 2-1, and it just kept us on unbeaten run going. So yeah, I say Dartford away.
Perfect. Okay, next question from Winston is, and this is a very, very, very good question. Have you got any advice on how to remain motivated and focused at training during winter months? Obviously, the boys will be out training of an evening. Some of these boys will start training at around 5. So obviously, it's a lot colder in the evenings than guys will be facing with a 10:30 start. So, how do you guys manage? And we're not talking about gloves and hats and
You wear them more. You wear them
more.
You
wear them all. You wear the gloves, you wear the hat, you wear the scarf. You have to.
If you can wear 2 trousers, you wear the 2 trousers. But I think. I think even now, even though you're saying like it does get a lot colder like later on in the day, but even now in the mornings, like it splits now in the morning. So obviously, it's just like most importantly, just making sure you're covered up, because before you go out, you need to be covered up anyway. But once you get out there, for me, I just see it as running around as much as I can, like making sure I work even harder, like because at the end of the day, you're cold. You don't want to be cold when you're playing football. Right, so make sure I just work even harder and making sure that at the end of the day, it's my job. I need to know it's my job. Right, rain, sun, snow. Most of the time I'm out there, so I can't come and complain about this and that and be like, oh, I don't want to train because of the fact of how cold it is. When I know it's my job, I just need to get down and dirty and need to do the job.
I think of the end goal. Like, you might not want to be motivated, but a team in your league is motivated. All the players motivated. And then they're scoring goals in training, they're running around, they're keeping them mentally strong. And then it comes to Saturday and you haven't trained well, or you thought, and you lose. And then the team that's, let's say you're first, and the team that's second, they were motivated in training and they were keeping their mind right, and they've won the game and they've taken over you in the league. And you're thinking, if only I'd done this, if only I'd done that. And by the time you think about it, they've like won another 3 games and you've won 1 because you haven't thought, I don't feel it today. I'm feeling a bit cold. I don't want to do it. And then by the time you don't win the league, and you're gonna think that was a waste of time. I should have done it, but I haven't. And now the end goal is we didn't get promoted, or we didn't win the league, or I didn't score this many goals, and it just becomes, well, I should have done it. I should have put it in.
Brilliant. 2 fantastic answers there. So, next one. If you're having a bad game, what do you do, or what would you do to change that? And that is again for both of you.
Boy, I don't have that many bad games, so I don't know what.
Please, boys, don't listen to him.
I'm joking. Do you know what? Some people have a certain thing they do. Like, I heard Mac Owen used to blow his nose, or Alan Shearer, one of them, used to blow nose. One used to say, there's a word they say, let's say, get right, or red pill, or whatever. But personally, for me, it's, you might have done a few things wrong, and then the next thing you do, you got to keep it simple until, not build your confidence back, but you get into the groove of the game. Sometimes you're not in the groove of the game and you're playing poorly. It's just make sure you do the things you can do right. And then once you get that confidence, you just start exploring yourself once again. So it's not you lose your confidence, but to gain it back, you do a few things simple. Then you're like, okay, I'm getting back to the groove of the game, and I can continue playing be myself again.
Perfect. And Pete?
I think for me, I've just seen it as a defender. I think I've always taken, it sounds weird, but I've always said, if I'm having a bad game, I need to have a bad, good game, if you get what I mean. Mm-hmm. So it could be a bad game, but I can't let the bad go to horrible, if you get what I mean. So I need to keep it at a bad, good game. So what I mean by a bad, good game is, let's say I'm having a game where on the ball, I'm terrible. I'm not doing anything on the ball. in that game, I'm going to say to myself, fine, you're not doing the best on the ball. Off the ball, you better make sure that winger doesn't get past you for the rest of the game. Things like that, just so that I know, okay, even if I'm having a hard time going forward, I'm still doing my job defensively. So that's what I mean by having a bad, good game. Just knowing that, keeping it simple, not trying to do too much. When you're having a bad game, doing a long 30-yard pass might not work when you're having a bad game. So it's just about keeping it simple and going back to basics.
Two brilliant answers, and that actually links to the next question from Luca. In which game, or I'll add to this, in which games do you think you've been the most nervous, and do you think the nerves affected your play in a positive or negative way?
I don't know which games, but I'll say when I was a lot younger, I'll say every game affected me in terms of nerves. But when I was a lot younger, I think I didn't have the mentality that I had now of what I said earlier. I think the mentality I had now, not the mentality I had then, was I was nervous because I was afraid of letting other people down and letting down the manager and being afraid of being dropped and things like that. I think in this game, you can't be afraid of them certain things like that. That can't be what you're afraid of, because then you'll always be scared of making mistakes. You'll always be scared of improving. To improve, you need to make mistakes, and I need to do 6 bad passes, 6 bad 30-yarders for me to get a good 30-yard on my 7th time, in training and things like that. So obviously, I think for me, it was just about as a kid, I would say you get affected nerves of you trying to impress other people. But as I said before, I think if you take anything from the conversation, is don't be nervous about what other people think. Be nervous about what you think, because your opinion of yourself is the most important opinion. If you don't think you're a good player, you're never going to be a good player. Yeah. If you think you're a good player, I'm not saying you think you're a good player, you think you're Maradona and you're not there yet. Obviously be humble, but at the same time, know what you're capable of and know what you can do. Know that, I am a good player and this is what I'm capable of doing. So always don't be nervous for the wrong reasons. Be nervous for the right reasons.
And yourself, Pelly?
I'll say one game I was nervous was when I made my debut for West Ham. But I was nervous in a good way because I was playing next to my boy, Leo, and I played with him in the reserves in under 18. So we was nervous, but it was a good nervous. It was oh, don't make a mistake, because you as well. So we were both nervous, but obviously we were busting jokes at it because we were both playing centre back. So it was good nerves, and obviously we won that game, and then I think we both kept a clean sheet. So it was good nerves. So obviously the nerves didn't affect me. So that's the same time that I thought, damn, nervous, but the nerves didn't affect us, and we had a good game.
Perfect. Okay. Coming down to the last few, and then Dale's got a couple to add as well. So we've talked a lot, or I mentioned a couple of questions about going back to your former child self and what advice you'd give yourself there, and also what advice you'd give yourself for where you want to get to. But the next question is, and it's a really good question actually, and it's not something I asked, but at what age were you both when you started playing? And at what age did you actually look at yourselves and go, actually, you know what? Now it's time to start taking this football journey seriously because I think I've got ability.
Well, everyone started playing football young, but the first time I played for a team was when I was about 9, 10. It was like a tournament that we had small goals, and I think I might have got concussion. Like I just felt dazed, and then I thought, oh, damn man, this is hard. But obviously, I've always liked playing football, but never for a team. So when I was maybe about 13, 14, I got picked for my county, and we done well in the county county cup for Middlesex, and then we got to travel to somewhere to play the other counties. I thought, damn, like I'm playing for this county, and I'm actually starting, and I'm playing good. So for about that age, and I thought, oh damn, yeah, this can actually be. Obviously, I like football, but there's always when you're playing Sunday league, you think, do I do it? It's cold, it's it. But eventually, I was like, yes, I can do this, and here I am.
Perfect. And yourself, Pete?
Yeah, I think it's the exact same. I think I started when I was around the exact same time. I think I was 8. I was 8, 7 or 8 when I started. And I've always enjoyed it as a kid. I always enjoyed it, and it was a thing of I always knew that this was what I wanted to do, and I just stuck by it.
Perfect. Cool. So Dale, over to yourself with the extra questions you've got.
Cheers, Forbesy. Thanks, guys. Only a last couple left. Okay, linking that kind of back to Black History Month, we had Troy Townsend and Marcus Gale on with us last week from Kick It Out. And we asked them the question of kind of, you know, some people from Black history that the boys could go and research, you know, people that they might not know of. So have you guys got any kind of idols or heroes that, you know, maybe are under the radar that you should suggest the boys to go and maybe research, or, you know, maybe someone who's not under the radar, but someone who maybe have had an impact on your lives for them to go and look at?
No, there's always the main people like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, and it depends who you want to follow. I can't really give you, if I give you someone, you're gonna follow me. You might not know, or you might not want to research him. So for me, it's kind of, you need to kind of do your own research and see who you like or whose ideas you don't like, and then because I can't force it onto you because it's not my responsibility. It's a responsibility for you to know, but I can't tell you who to follow and what to do, and it's ultimately it's going to be your choice of what you do with the information, and if you hold it or you explore it, and that's my opinion anyway.
Yeah, I think I'll second that. I think obviously, like as Pearl said, everyone has their favorites, and most people like Martin Luther King. I enjoy Malcolm X, but that's because of the things I've learned from him. But I think from Pearl's point of view, I think that's the best way to put it. Like whoever teaches you more as a human being, that's the person you should stick with. And that's the person that's going to help you most. Don't just go with whatever me and Pearl say, because just because I like it or Pearl likes it, you might not like it. So it's just about who you think you can reconcile with, and you can like follow what they've said, what they've taught.
Because Martin Luther King and Malcolm X are both probably the only black men that served, but they had different ideas. One was obviously violent, but the other one, peace-free process. So I can't tell you do this and do that. You're thinking, I don't agree with this, but I agree with him. So you got to kind of, you can mix and match, but obviously you can do research and see who you want to follow and that way as well.
Fantastic, brilliant. Last question, then we'll let you go. We ask all our guests kind of, can you recommend either a book or a podcast or a documentary to watch? The only caveat we add is that it can't be The Last Dance, because everyone says The Last Dance. So have you got any other books, podcasts, documentaries, or anything that you've seen, watched, listened to lately that you can recommend for the boys? It can be football, non-football related, anything that you've seen or heard or read that you think, you know, can add value.
I'm gonna have to go and search, because I have a book in my bedroom right now that I'm reading, and it's quite interesting, to be fair. But this is it's more of an intellectual read, so I'm not too sure if you enjoy this. But it's called King Leopard's Ghost, and basically what it's about how Congo was invaded and things like that, and how slaves were being used out there. That's my book, but obviously that reconciles with me because I'm Congolese. Obviously, me and Pearl are Congolese, but because as a Congolese man, as I said during lockdown, I tried to just educate myself a lot more. So I got this book, and yeah, that's the one that's for me. That's the best one.
I'll just give general one. Like if you want to see how a club is run, you might want to watch Amazon Prime. What's it called?
All or Nothing.
Yeah, you see the All or Nothing programs. Like you might want to see how a top class like Man City are run, or even the Leeds one. Leeds have just come up from the Championship. You might think, Luton were just in Championship. How did they do? And you might want to not replicate all of it, but sort of stuff that they've done, how they worked, and how they've seen the progression that they've made.
Brilliant. Forbesy, I'll leave it over to you to sign off. Thank you, guys.
Forbesy.
You're on mute, Forbesy.
He's on mute. Can I just ask Pelly a question, Dale, before we sign off? Pel, you were laughing earlier when Pete said about going up to Hartlepool. Can you remember the last time you went to Hartlepool?
The last time we went to Hartlepool, I think it was a 1-1 draw. I think she scored a free kick. I even played striker, big striker.
Oh, please, sir.
That was what I was going to remind you of, because
big striker. Me and Jack Marriott. Jack Marriott he's at Derby now, and yeah, me and him played up front. So it was a bit of a bit mad one.
And I think it was a good example really for all the kids in this, because Pelly's played as he said, he made his debut at centre half. He played centre forward that night, not very successfully, but he's played all over midfield. He fills in wherever, defensive midfield, attacking midfield, and he's now obviously been here 8th season now, I think, isn't it, Pep? But
was that 2013, 14?
Yeah, 2013. But that night up at Hartlepool, Nathan, and for all you kids as well, what you're aiming for is the first team at Luton Town. And Nathan played the youngest team in Luton Town's Football League history that night. I think JJ played, didn't he? And Akin Famolo played. It was his debut.
Yeah, Akin played. Yeah.
I think Frankie Masonda was on the bench. But you've all got a goal at this club, and you've got a manager who believes in youth. And I think Pelly will back that up, and Pete. But, you all aim for that. And if you can be like Pell and play in a variety of positions, you'll end up with 250 games to your name.
Happy days. Happy days. Thanks for that, Stu. So just to wrap up, I'm going to finish with the last question, which I would have asked anyway, but it is in the list of questions as well. Just to wrap up, boys, and Pete, you can answer this one first. Give these boys on the screen, these boys that have got a dream and a passion and desire to be professional footballers, what's the one piece of advice you could give them to take away to help them hopefully fulfill that dream?
Just believe in yourself. Never doubt yourself. Don't doubt you as a player. Don't doubt you as a human being. Don't doubt you as a person. Because I think when things are not going, especially as a footballer, as a footballer, you have your down days. You have a lot more downs than you have ups. And when the downs come, it does hit you quite hard, and it does make you question yourself. But it's just about you understanding who you are and understanding where you want to get to and where you want to go. So obviously, as for you young lads here, don't think just because you have a bad game that you're a bad player or you're not good enough, and you start putting loads of pressure on yourself. Nah, think about how you can rectify that. Think about what's the next step you can do and what's the next thing you can do to help you keep moving forward. The most important thing is to move forward. Doesn't matter if you take a little pause and you have to wait a little bit, but you need to keep moving forward. Don't ever take steps back.
I'll second repeat that. You always have to believe yourself, because if you have belief, that's half the job done. Like you might not have all the talent, but if you believe that you can do something, you can easily achieve it. And obviously, I like basketball, and LeBron James says, "Strive for greatness." You always got to strive, always believing, always striving, always thinking, "Oh, this little thing might happen, lead to greatness." So these little things that you might think, "I'm not going to do it," or "I'm not going to do this, not do that," might just tip you over to be great. And everyone wants to be a great player. Like, I don't know. You don't pick up football just to be a bang average. Here, I'm stay on the bench. I'm all right. I'm there. Everyone wants to be a great player. So for me, always strive for greatness.
Brilliant. And what a fantastic way to end this discussion. Chaps, I just want to say from my point of view, from Dale's point of view, the Academy in general, thank you ever so much for giving up your time. It is really appreciated by ourselves as a group of staff, and I'm pretty certain every single player that's listened to you talk tonight will be appreciative of your time and the information you've given them. And hopefully, boys, you've taken away some real key messages to help you with your journey now, in short term, medium term and long term, but both on the pitch and off the pitch. So I'm sure you'll join me in saying a massive thank you for Pelly, a massive thank you for Peter. And boys, best of luck for the rest of the season. And as you said, you never know what we might be able to achieve if we can continue to play with the confidence and belief that we have done so far. So chaps, thank you so much for your time.
Cheers, thank you. Best of luck, boys.
Thanks for listening in, boys.
See you later.
No problem.